Hello and welcome to Master Your Mindset with your host, Isis Foster. This is the place to be for anyone who is on a personal development journey. I will be sharing with you my own mindset hacks and personal past experiences. Please subscribe and share if you enjoy what I'm about to share with you and you've taken value from it. You never know who may need to hear it. We all have so many thoughts going through our brains every single minute of the day, but how many of those thoughts and amazing ideas do we actually put into practice, and how many of those thoughts and ideas kind of get buried to the back of our brains because we're afraid of failing, we're afraid of doing something which isn't going to be in our minds classed as perfect, we're afraid of putting something out there which we don't think everyone else will accept. I know from a personal aspect, there have been so many things which I have thought about doing or thought about creating, or ideas which I've wanted to put into action, but there's always been a part of me which has kind of held me back and said, oh no, well, if it's not going to be perfect, or if I can't do it within this time frame, then there's no point in me doing it at all. And that honestly could not be further from the truth. I was having this discussion with a client of mine who I coach, and she was exactly the same as me. And she was telling me all these incredible ideas. And I said, well, how are you going to get them to come to life? Like, how are you going to bring these into your reality? Because these are incredible ideas. And the first thing she said to me was, well, I don't think it's going to be very good. Like, it's going to take me loads of time and it probably won't be perfect. And my initial reaction to that, because I always find it so easy to give out advice, but when it comes to you actually doing that yourself, it's always harder to take on your own advice than to give it out as anyone else agreeing with me with that one. Because any kind of situation, I always think, oh, well, this is what you could do. But then when it comes to you, you're a bit like, oh, well, I'm not too sure. But the first thing I said to her was, messy action will always be inaction. So doing something which isn't going to be perfect, but doing something in the right direction of what you want to achieve will 100% of the time beat not doing anything. If you have incredible ideas, or if you have things which you're excited about, honestly, the best thing you could do with those things is to put them into the world, showcase them to the world. Chances are they're not going to be perfect, but in whose mind's eye is perfect anyway? There's always going to be something you can improve on, but the hardest part of getting things from your head into the real world is taking that first step. Once that first step has been taken, everything else just kind of falls into place. I remember before I decided to create a podcast, I had probably about 5 people in my inner circle saying, Isis, like, you need to do that. Like, you need to share everything you're telling us about on a daily basis with the rest of the world so other people can value from it too. And I remember just my inner voice saying, no, don't do it because it won't be good enough. No, don't do it because what you've got to say doesn't really matter. And then I thought one day, I'm going to shut down that voice. I'm just going to create this podcast and then we're just going to go from there. And honestly, the feedback that I have had has spurred me on to create more and more episodes weekly for all of my listeners, because I know it's bringing so much value to everyone that tunes in. And it's the same with those ideas which perhaps are going on in your head right now, or businesses that you want to start up, or tutorials that you want to create, or content that you want to make. Whatever it is, just do it, because perfect doesn't exist. There is no such thing as perfect. What exists is the idea of perfection in your minds, which you have created and you have added your own pressure onto for yourself. In terms of perfection, what you create could be incredible to someone, but not someone else's cup of tea, and that you're never going to please the whole world. So if you have ideas or things that you want to share with the rest of the world, you really should get out there and just showcase them, because you honestly never know who is going to take inspiration from them, who's going to take value from them. And it may be that one piece of content you create or that business that you start up completely changes somebody else's world. And how incredible is that, to think that if you had never got over your inner critic, if you never got over that internal voice inside your head, that person whose life you have actually now changed would never have been changed had it not have been for you. So if there's one piece of advice I could give on this podcast today, it's to just put yourself out there and stop holding yourself back by thinking that everything in your life has to be perfect, when in reality, everything in life is messy, no matter what it is. Nothing in life is perfect. There's always going to be bumps and hiccups and obstacles in the road. But what's perfect about that is that you're learning along the way, and you're learning how to overcome all of these hard obstacles and challenges and things which are going to challenge you. This is a beautiful journey, and sometimes rather than the destination that you end up in, the journey which allows you to get to that destination is actually the most beautiful thing ever, because you learn so much about yourself. You give yourself the confidence to show up for yourself, and you are incredible. Like, there are so many thoughts. I know, speaking to all the people that I coach and my friends and my partner and myself, like, we all have so many ideas in our heads every single day. You might see a poster and that might trigger something. You might see something on social media and that might trigger something in your brain. Whatever it is, put some of those thoughts into action. Get your wheels turning, get your motors on, like, do something which is going to help you in the long run, because it's all well and good having ideas which are floating around in our heads, but none of that actually matters unless we can share it with the rest of the world and help other people. Do something today which is going to help your future self. Forget perfectionism, forget being perfect. Share your ideas with the rest of the world, because I guarantee you now there will be someone that takes inspiration from you. All you have to do is take the first steps, whether that be sharing your ideas on social media, talking to friends or family, or showcasing them in some shape or form to the people around you. Because once you have got through that first step, everything else will fall into place for you. The first step is always the hardest step, because you have to get the thoughts out of your head into the world. That will always be the most difficult step. But once that step is done, everything else will fall into motion. So trust the process, go for it, and do messy action over no action. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast today. If you enjoyed what you heard, please feel free to tag me on social media at IsisFoster1 and I will reshare your post. Have a beautiful day.